Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Neighborhood Science Special Program. We are so excited to have you all joining us through Facebook or YouTube to learn about biodiversity in Los Angeles and to kick off Los Angeles Public Library's very first LA BioBlitz Challenge we're hosting this summer starting June 7th. That's next Monday. This BioBlitz Challenge you're going to hear about today is a collaboration between Los Angeles Public Library's Neighborhood Science Initiative and LA Sanitation and Environment's Biodiversity Program. I want to thank LA Sanitation and Environment and Library Foundation of Los Angeles Library Foundation of Los Angeles for their sponsorship of this challenge to help raise awareness of biodiversity in our city. I also want to thank our behind-the-scenes staff for making today's program possible. I'm Vivian Burr from the Exploration and Creativity Department at the Los Angeles Public Library. I am a librarian and the lead coordinator for our system-wide neighborhood science and STEAM programs. And I'm also your host today. In case if you wonder, neighborhood science at Los Angeles Public Library is about empowering everyone to learn about and contribute to science and sustainable practices in and for our neighborhoods, no matter how old or how young you are. You don't need to be an A student in science or math, and you don't need to have a scientific background to do neighborhood science. You just need to be curious about the world around you. In the next 55 minutes, if I talk fast enough, our speaker is going to take us on a journey to see some of the most amazing and beautiful wild species that call the city of Los Angeles their home. She is also going to tell us how we can help protect these species and habitats by taking part in the LA BioBlitz Challenge starting June 7th. I will then come back to show how you can participate in this coolest BioBlitz Challenge ever, what tools you will need, and how to earn your chance to win an exclusive prize, which is a branded LA BioBlitz Challenge Nature Exploring Kit. We will have a Q&A at the end of the presentations. Okay, and before we get started, I just have a quick housekeeping notes. Please feel free to post your questions or thoughts in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. Our behind-the-scene moderators, Cesar and Diane, will send those questions to us. Also, if you stick around until the end of today's program, you will have a chance to win the book Wild LA by Leela Higgins from the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles. Now let's dive into today's program. Here with us today is Michelle Barton. Hi, Michelle, the environmental specialist with the City of Los Angeles Department of Sanitation and Environment. She is also the lead on the LA Sanitation and Environment's Biodiversity Program. Michelle received her Bachelor of Science degree in biology from UCLA and her Master's of Science degree in biology as well from Cal State Long Beach. Without further ado, let's turn our attention to Michelle.
Thank you so much, Vivian, for that warm welcome. I'm really excited to be here today with you all. And Caesar, if you could share my screen, perfect. We can get right to it. So as Vivian mentioned, today I'm going to be talking about biodiversity in Los Angeles and helping to kick off our LA BioBlitz Challenge. So first off, what is biodiversity and why should you care? Well, this slide shows some examples of biodiversity in Los Angeles. If you take a look, what do you see? Some birds, mammals, reptiles, plants with berries, plants with flowers, different landscapes. Exactly. In LA, we define biodiversity as the plants, animals, and ecosystems that enrich and sustain Los Angeles. And in LA, that is a lot of different species. In LA County, we actually have over 4,000 species of plants and animals that are native to the area, and over 50 of these are considered to be endangered, which means they're threatened by extinction. In fact, there is so much biodiversity here in Los Angeles that LA is actually considered to be one of just 36 global biodiversity hotspots. This sounds pretty cool, but what does it mean to be a hotspot? To be a hotspot, a region has to meet two criteria. The first is that you have to have a huge variety of plants and animals, which, as I've already mentioned, LA definitely does. And the second is that these places have to have experienced habitat loss. And so hotspots are places where biodiversity continues to be threatened. This slide shows the three main threats to biodiversity across the globe. So the first is climate change, which leads to changed temperature, precipitation and fire patterns, and changes in sea level rise. The second is pollution. Air, water, and soil pollution all can hinder biodiversity. And the last is habitat loss. In urban areas like LA, we have converted what used to be natural areas to cities. So these threats are growing, and our global biodiversity is definitely at risk. And if big changes in how the world protects biodiversity aren't put into motion soon, the world could actually see 1 million species go extinct in the next few decades. So, why should you, as neighborhood scientists, care about biodiversity? In my opinion, biodiversity is one of the best indicators of ecosystem health. Plus, biodiversity provides food sources. Different critters will help pollinate crops and, again, provide some of the foods that we eat. There are public health benefits associated with biodiversity. And of course, there are ecosystem services that our biodiversity provides that lead to clean air, clean water, and healthy soil. And while we know there is a lot of biodiversity in LA, it is challenging to document it all in a really comprehensive and meaningful way. And the city of Los Angeles does have some biologists that go out into the field to do surveys in the mountains and in the oceans. But we think it's much more powerful to work with you, our neighborhood scientists, to make observations of the biodiversity all around you. So the observations you make on community science platforms like iNaturalist, which will include photos and dates and locations, become part of this really incredible open source database that then scientists like me and local governments like the city of Los Angeles can use to make decisions. And there are some other cool things that can come from participating in neighborhood science. Your photos might help identify a rare or introduced species. They could also help track how an area recovers after a wildfire, or just help document and create an inventory of the species that exist within the city or within like a park's boundaries. But just know that every observation that is recorded by you using iNaturalist ends up contributing to biodiversity science. And iNaturalist is really a treasure trove of data for scientists like me that use this information to understand what's going on with biodiversity. So in LA County alone, as this image shows, there have been almost 500,000 observations of over 5,000 species made. And the really incredible thing to me is that this data set has been created by over 20,000 observers. So there are so many people that are engaged with biodiversity, taking pictures and uploading them to iNaturalist. It's really incredible. And if you're not one of the people that is already making observations and using iNaturalist, I encourage you to sign up for an account and start contributing your observations. You can visit iNaturalist.org or visit the App Store for more information. And if you need extra motivation to get started with iNaturalist, today's event is kicking off a very exciting summer program, the LA BioBlitz Challenge, that will use iNaturalist. So we're calling this event the LA BioBlitz Challenge, but what is a BioBlitz? In case this is your first time really hearing the word, a BioBlitz is an effort over a short amount of time to make a lot of community science observations in a specific place. And these BioBlitzes bring people together in a way that can make a really big impact and provide a lot of valuable data. So this LA BioBlitz Challenge has two main goals. And the first goal is to make observations of the plants, animals, fungi, and other different critters you see in observation cold spots. And to show kind of this distribution of hotspots and cold spots. Where we've seen observations made on iNaturalist, we've created this heat map. And it shows teeny tiny grids, all across the city of Los Angeles that show the number of observations made on iNaturalist in that area. So in areas where there are no observations, you see gray squares. And in areas where we've seen some observations, you see dark gray or light green colors. And then in certain areas, you'll see dark green. And these are areas that have lots and lots of observations. Now, we know there's biodiversity in all of these areas. There are plants and animals and weeds everywhere around us, but we need your help to catalog the different species that we see in these cold spots. So we've created an interactive map that is posted on the LA BioBlitz challenge page. And it is really cool because you can interact with it. So, so you can zoom in, as I kind of just alluded to, and you can also use this button in the corner to find your location. And you can also, if you want, put in an address. And if you do that, it will take you to that address and show you the color of your grid. The last thing you can do is you can actually click on grids and you can see how many observations have been made in those grids. So it's a lot of fun to play around with and kind of understand if your house or your school or your library branch is in an observation hot or cold spot. So the second goal of the LA BioBlitz Challenge is to make observations of 37 different indicator species that we are including in this summer challenge. And I'm going to go through some examples and show some photos of a few of these species, but please note that for the full list, you can visit lapl.org/bioblitz. So as I've alluded to, there's a lot of biodiversity here in Los Angeles. And so, how can we as scientists and as neighborhood scientists decide which ones to take pictures of and which ones to monitor? There are so many species we can take pictures of and notice and upload that, it makes sense to focus on a more select list. And so we at the City of LA are tracking different species that we call indicator species. And these are species that are monitored because they tell you something about the habitat or environment. And typically these indicator species are found in open spaces that have good habitat, have access to food or prey, have water sources, and provide shelter and good environmental conditions. So one example of an indicator species that we at the city are tracking and we want your help looking for this summer is the California quail. And the California quail is an iconic ground-dwelling bird that can be a lot of fun to see. They have this special crest called a plume that is a little bit of feathers that pops up from the top of their heads. And you can often see these birds running around in large groups in places like Griffith Park. Other birds, like this pretty blue songbird, the western bluebird, are more common in neighborhood parks. I know that I can see them when I go on a walk down the street to my local park right here. And the fun thing about these birds is that they are a vibrant blue color that makes them pretty easy to spot and to identify. Another bird that I love looking for and seeing when I'm out is the acorn woodpecker. And these birds are easy to see and hear in our larger urban parks that have native trees like oak trees and sycamore trees, and even snags, which are dead or dying trees. And you can look for acorn woodpeckers by their distinctive red cap. And in this photo, the red cap, which is on its head, kind of blends in with the background of this picture, but they are very noticeable in person and fun to see. You also might see evidence of acorn woodpecker holes in trees where acorn woodpeckers store their acorns in places called granaries. One of the plant indicator species we're hoping that you'll look for this summer and see is the California rose. And this is a really beautiful native flowering plant with open pink flowers that grows near the coast and in the foothills. There are also a number of charismatic megafauna, so bigger species like cats that are on our indicator species list. And some of these species, like the bobcat shown here, are actually pretty hard to see in person and even harder to take pictures of. So scientists will use special nature cameras called camera traps to take pictures of the species that come in front of them and then put that information in a database. And sometimes you end up with these really stunning images, like this one that was captured by Claw of this bobcat with the LA skyline in the background. This is another picture of a bobcat, but this one was taken by an actual photographer, a really talented one named Robert Martinez. And it's a very beautiful picture, but again, I just want to drive home the point that, you're not very likely to see bobcats in person. But what you can do, and what's something that I think is kind of fun about iNaturalist, is you can take pictures of tracks that you see in the dirt or scat and upload those to iNaturalist as evidence that a bobcat was there. So even if you can't see the species, you can still contribute observations that way. Another bird species that is on our indicator species list is the greater roadrunner. And this is a very cool species that calls LA home, and one that you might already be familiar with. Um, in Saturday morning cartoons, there's the classic Looney Tunes duo of Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. But this is an actual bird species, and you can see it in some of our drier, scrubbier areas, especially in the San Gabriel foothills. This really beautiful butterfly is the El Segundo blue butterfly, and it is really special because it's an endangered species, which means it's at risk of extinction. And we are lucky enough in LA to have a population of these pretty butterflies, but it is in a very specific place. It's in a part of LA that has sandy dune habitat with a very special plant, coast buckwheat. And that's this kind of whitish pinkish plant that's in this picture. And this butterfly needs this plant, and it is very much connected to this plant. The other thing that's cool about the El Segundo blue butterfly is that it is endemic to the LA area, which means that it is found here in LA and really nowhere else in the world. So it's really special. And that's a little preview of some of the indicator species we hope that you'll see this summer during the LA BioBlitz Challenge, and a little bit of background on biodiversity. So thank you for your time, and I'll hand it back to Vivian now.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for such a beautiful presentation. This is like my 4th time looking at these slides, and I'm still so amazed by how rich in biodiversity Los Angeles is. I grew up here in LA knowing LA is a concrete jungle, and I never really thought about observing or paying attention to the little creatures or wildlife in my neighborhood or backyard until I got involved in neighborhood science and started using iNaturalist. And I'm just going to tell a little story here. So thanks to iNaturalist, I now know that in my backyard, I have these little neighbors. I think it's generations of Western fence lizard family living in my backyard. And also my neighbor's oak tree branch that grew over to our side of fence is like a perfect home for hummingbirds, northern mockingbirds, and house sparrows, which I never knew any of these until I started using iNaturalist. And we have always these 2 crazy squirrels that's like chasing birds off our feeders, and they are fox squirrels. So thanks to iNaturalist, now I really spend a lot of time in my backyard just watching them, and I start even giving them names. So that's how fun it is to get involved in BioBlitz and start using iNaturalist. So I'm gonna pivot this back, and I have some questions for Michelle because I think she has like one of the coolest jobs in the city. So I'm just wondering, so how did you get interested in biodiversity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually fell in love with biology when I was in middle school. I took life science and loved it. And then that love really continued when I was in high school in biology. So I decided to major in biology and really have just been interested in conservation throughout my education and my professional career, and feel really lucky to have landed this job because, as you pointed out, it's a very special job and get to do a lot of exciting work to protect the biodiversity we have here in LA.
That is so awesome. And thank you for taking that job. And my next question for you is, have you done any research on the field? And what was it like? Was there any like most memorable experience or moment for you?
Yeah, so I've done a number of different types of field work, and it can be really fun. One of the most memorable things I did is before I went back to grad school, I actually assisted with a research project on elk in
Wow.
northeastern Oregon. And we had these special collars that were on the elk that were supposed to help figure out where the elk were and what they were doing. So there was a group of researchers that just basically was in Oregon, and we watched elk and recorded the behaviors they did all day to try to calibrate these collars. But it was a lot of fun. We lived at a forest station bungalow kind of in the middle of nowhere with no cell service, but it was very memorable.
Man,
The
I'm
other
so jealous of your job, of your work.
And the other thing I did a little closer to home that was a lot of fun, when I was in grad school, I studied an endangered bird called the light-footed ridgeways rail, and it only lives in Southern California wetlands. And so I would go out in marshes and look for the nests of this bird and then take a lot of measurements around those nests when I found them. But that was a lot of fun. It was very
Wow.
muddy.
Cool. See, I guess I will have to wait till I retire from my librarian job to take on that. So now I'm going to pivot this back again to about the city's effort in the biodiversity, um, I guess, conservation efforts. So how does the city's biodiversity research help conserving wildlife and habitats?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we in LA Sanitation and Environment have worked with this group of incredible experts. They're researchers at universities, people from nonprofits, and just really engaged individuals on this topic of biodiversity to develop a special tool called the LA City Biodiversity Index. And we have put it together because we feel it's a pretty comprehensive way of looking at what's happening to our native ecosystems and what's happening in terms of the management of those systems at the city level. And so we are tracking all of these different indicators over time and think that this will be a good tool for us both to understand what's going on, but also a good tool to share with the public to show the results of and hopefully inspire action on both public lands by the city and on private lands by private homeowners and just individuals.
I see. Wow. That's a lot of information. That's great. It's really good to know that the city is taking the step to really help us, taking the step to really conserving the wildlife and also their habitats. Now, so how can I know you mentioned about neighborhood science and kind of like a call to action, thing for us to become a neighborhood scientist. So how can neighborhood science help the city conserve biodiversity?
I'm so glad you asked that. So, as I mentioned in my presentation, We have decided to really focus on these indicator species because we feel that if one of these species is present, we really then have so much information on that habitat and on that area that we can make some other inferences. And by seeing these species in places where maybe they weren't before, if there was some restoration activity that happened, or if a parcel was conserved, and now we can make observations of that species because it has habitat there, that is a really important change we can track over time. And that's part of the reason we are focused on these indicator species and hoping that through the LA BioBlitz Challenge this summer and even beyond, we can really use these indicator species to better kind of understand what's happening with conservation across the city.
Got it. That's really good to know. Now, can you give us a few sustainable tips how we can help sustainable tips we can do to help the city's biodiversity conservation efforts?
Yeah, so one of the simplest things you can do is plant some native plants at your house, at your apartment, at your school. You don't have to necessarily have a garden. If you have a balcony and you have space for a potted plant, you could put a buckwheat plant there, and I bet that you'll start to see some pretty incredible butterflies and other pollinators start to come visit that. So I think that that's one thing you can do. Another thing is to avoid using pesticides and herbicides in your yard if you have one, because those things can actually really harm our biodiversity, especially again, some of those smaller pollinators and things like butterflies and bees. Um, and and I mean, beyond that, I think becoming a community scientist or a neighborhood scientist is important not only because of the data it produces, but I think that it then gets people excited, like you were saying, Vivian, about what's in their backyard or what's around their house, in their neighborhood, at their school. And once you start to recognize those species and know their names and see certain either individual birds or certain species revisit your yard regularly, I feel like you establish a little bit of a relationship with them. And I think that that helps build stewards and makes people realize that we don't live in a concrete jungle. We really do live in this biodiversity haven.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree on that last part because I really feel that strong connection with my backyard now. Totally. I spend a lot of time in my backyard. So I hope everyone is making notes or taking notes. I mean, we have this program recorded, so you can always go back to Los Angeles Public Library's YouTube to watch it again later. But I think these are great tips and we should be mindful of. And so thank you again, Michelle, for this part. And I think right now is the perfect time to go over the detail of the LA BioBlitz Challenge. So I'm sure everyone is curious now. So how can you participate in the BioBlitz Challenge? And I'm going to tell you all about it. So, but before I start, I want you to either write this down or using the camera on your phone or your smart device to scan the QR code that is on the screen or click on the link in the comments. Okay, and this is going to take you to the LA BioBlitz Challenge website where you will find instructions, the indicator species cards and information, and the observation heat map, video tutorial, frequently asked questions or FAQ, and a book river with titles that will help you to learn more about biodiversity. So I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to scan the code and click the link or click the link in the comments. And so that way you have the page on your screen or on a separate tab. And make sure you bookmark the site. It is going to be your best friend for the next 8 weeks. Also, LA BioBlitz Challenge is for all ages and is totally family friendly. So moms and dads, older brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts, grandpas and grandmas, the little ones in your family can totally join and participate in the BioBlitz Challenge with you. Okay, so don't count them out. They can be part of it. And so now we're going to go back and talk about how you can participate. The first thing you need to do is to download the iNaturalist app and to create an account and add LA BioBlitz Challenge project to your account. The app is available on both iOS and Android platform. It looks like right now we have the wrong slide on screen. There you go. Okay, so I'm putting the QR code for the iNaturalist on screen for you. So if you want, while I'm talking, you can go ahead and download iNaturalist right now and get a head start. Just explore it. You have until, I think, 4 more days. Yes, until the starting of our BioBlitz on June 7th on Monday. Okay, it is always good to get familiarized with the app itself. Okay, and we do have a video tutorial on the BioBlitz website that will show you how to set up your account, which is super, super easy. But what I like to do right now is to show you how you can add the LA BioBlitz Challenge project to your account. Okay, so let me switch my account here. Okay, sorry, and I'm gonna move this here. So now you all are looking at my iPad, and I'm also looking at my computer screen here. So give me 1 second, and it's giving me a weird message. Okay, so going back here. So this is my iPad screen, and you see that I already have my iNaturalist download at the very bottom. So I'm going to tap that. And I already have my account set up here. So you saw I have contributed like 4 different observation. So if you look at the screen here at the bottom, there is a kind of like a menu bar, and you will see an icon that says project. That's the one you're going to tap. And you should see like a project sheet here. It kind of looks like the line paper you have on your notebook. It's blank because I have not participated in any project yet. So this is the place where you're going to search for LA BioBlitz Challenge. So you're going to tap on the search, the magnifying glass on that icon on the upper right corner. And you're going to go ahead and just type in LA BioBlitz. And it's going to start pulling stuff out on screen. And I'm going to type in. And by the time I type chat, before I put in the whole challenge thing, I already saw the one I want to add. At the very bottom with that green round circle camera icon, that LA BioBlitz Challenge is the challenge that the project that you want to make sure you add to your account. So I'm just going to tap on that. And it takes me to the screen right now. And on the top here, right under the icon, the green circle, you see there's 3 kind of grayish button, look like a pill. So the first one says join, and then news and about. So you want to make sure you click on join. Okay. And I tested this earlier. It's going to take a while. I don't know why. Maybe my internet is slow. But eventually it will get added. So be patient with me here. Just bear with me. All right. Okay, so it is added. Now, how do you know if it's added? Because it just stopped running. The best way to tell is now you see that first button here, the gray button. Instead of saying join, it says leave. So that means you're already part of the project, and only if you want to leave, then you come back here and you tap that, then you can leave the project. Now I'm done with this part, so I'm gonna click on the back arrow on the upper left corner. And it's going to take me back here. And you will see that I'm going to cancel that. Now, remember that line paper sheet that I saw earlier? Under join, you see there's 3 tabs here, right here. Under join, now it has LA BioBlitz Challenge listed there. So that means you are part of the project now. Okay, so that's that. And I'm going to tap going back to me at the bottom. So here you see it turns green. So just a quick note is that if you're doing this on your smartphone, chances are you might not see that project icon right away. What you will see is you're going to see 3 horizontal dots because the screen's not big enough. So what you're going to do is just click on or tap on that 3 dots, and then you should see the project listed on there, and then you can just go through the same process I just did to add the project. Okay, so I'm done explaining this part. I hope nobody falls asleep on me. And let me see. So we're going to move on to our step 2. Now, step 2 is you will want to go to the LA BioBlitz Challenge site to check out the indicator species cards and also the observation heat map on the BioBlitz Challenge site. Okay. And so that is our website. And again, the address is lapl.org/BioBlitz. And again, this website, this is where you can get a closer look at the indicator species and also find out if your neighborhood is in or near the observation cold spots. Okay, one thing I really wanted to talk about is keep in mind that even if your neighborhood is not in the observation cold spot or not near the observation cold spot, we still want you to make observations and look for indicator species in your neighborhood because they might just be there. So don't just like, well, they already have enough observation, or I'm not even close to it, and I'm not going to do it. Please still do your observation, and we still want to see if you see any interesting species in your neighborhood. Now, I also want to show you a very cool feature on iNaturalist is the sound recording button. Yes, sound file can also be observation data. And this would be great when you can hear the sound of the species made, but you can't see them, you can find them. For example, the birds in the tree, or I don't know, my coworker just told me about the frog that she heard, but she never saw the frog. So they make sound and you can record them. So I'm going to quickly show you how you can do that. Okay, so going back to my iPad. And so again, at the bottom of the menu bar, if you tap on Observe, which is the camera icon, you see that over here, number one is camera. That's how you can take a photo of your observation. And then the camera roll is basically you can just use the camera roll on your smart device and take a picture and upload it later. And now you see the third button here with the mic, you can record sound. So this is something really interesting I found I think it was last week. Literally 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I keep on hearing this bird chirping so loud in my backyard, and I couldn't see it because it's so dark. And I don't know what it is, but it sounds like there's like a group of birds. So I did the sound recording. There's no photo whatsoever. And I went ahead and uploaded this to iNaturalist. Literally, overnight, I woke up. Someone from the iNaturalist community told me that it was the sound made by the northern mockingbirds because they're very good in mimicking the sound. So it was like super cool. So this is what you can do with iNaturalist. Okay, so that's that. And I'm going to have myself back. Okay. So we're ready for step 3. Once you record the sound or photograph your observation, make sure you do upload it to iNaturalist app. And again, we have that tutorial video tutorial on our website that you can see how that can be done. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you very quickly how you can make sure that your observation is included in the LA BioBlitz Challenge project. I know sometimes you might have a concern that, well, I did join it, but I did join the challenge, the project, but I don't know what I just photographed and I uploaded, is it actually in there? So again, going back to the screen here. Now you see I have 3, actually 4, what do you call it, the observation that I uploaded. So I'm going to tap on the first one I have. And if you see on the upper right corner, the edit, you tap on that. Right here on this screen, you see there's underneath notes. At the very bottom here, you see project. If you tap on that, it would tell you if this particular observation you uploaded, if it was included in the project that you signed up for. So in this case, it is included in the LA BioBlitz Challenge. Okay, right now it's grayed out because we haven't started yet. It won't start until June 7th. So by then it should be white, okay? All right, so that's that. Okay, now we're moving on and very quickly. So I know sometimes if you're a student and you're using the school device that you can, oh, I'm sorry, that's later. Okay, if you don't have access to a computer or a smart device or internet all the time, or if you plan to go on this hiking trip and the hiking trail will not have good signal, and what you can do is you can always stop by one of the Los Angeles Public Library's branches to pick up the LA BioBlitz game card that look like this. Okay, it's the size of like the the insert for CDs before. Okay, so you can find this over there, and inside the inner page is actually the 37 indicator species in color. So you will be able to take this with you when you're heading that hiking trail, and you will be able to see if you see any of these indicator species there. Okay, and on the back we also have the instruction, and there's a QR code in case whenever you actually have internet, you can just scan it and it will take you straight to the LA BioBlitz Challenge website. All right, and now, so the next question would be, how do you complete the BioBlitz Challenge and enter for an exclusive prize drawing? We keep on talking about exclusive prize drawing. What is it? So you will find out about that later. So the answer to that is you will make at least 10, at least 10 or more observations, and have in these 10 or more observations, at least 3 of them are the indicator species. Then it will be considered you have completed the challenge. I know it sounds hard, and you probably look at these indicator species, you're like, well, I will never see any of these species in my neighborhood. And it sounds hard, but well, it sounds hard. That's why we call it, we call it a challenge. But to be honest, it's really a lot easier than you think. I literally just saw the red-tailed hawk again this past weekend, in one of my local parks here. And it is one of the indicator species. So you just, don't give up, and you have 8 weeks to find them. And keep in mind, just, when you go out, keep your eyes peeled, and you are, whenever you're out in your backyard or take a walk in your neighborhood or local park, or, you're on a hiking trail in the city of LA. Now I do have something very important I want to mention. So for this particular BioBlitz or this research project, we are looking for wildlife and wild creatures and plants. So that means photographing and sharing the observations from sharing the observations of your pets. They don't count, okay? Or the plants that you have planted in your backyard, they don't count either. So you could photograph them, but please don't share them with us, because we're looking for the wild ones, okay? Okay, sorry, I think my computer is acting weird here. I don't know why. Okay. Yee. All right. Let me see. I'm hearing this crazy sound. Okay. So once you have made 10 or more observations, with 3 being the indicator species, you can go ahead and either turn in your LA BioBlitz game card to one of the local LAPL branches that's near your home, or you can submit an online challenge completion form. And you can find that form on, again, the LA BioBlitz website at lapl.org/BioBlitz. Okay. I don't know. Are you guys hearing that weird sound from my computer? Okay. All right. All right. It's doing weird things right now. Give me 1 second. Sorry for technical difficulty here. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. Now I want to talk about the prizes. So basically, when you turn in the game card or you complete the online completion form, it is basically those forms, and the game card is your ticket to for the exclusive prize drawing. And so what is the prize? The prize is the Nature Exploring Kit. And here is a photo, a picture to show you. It's one of the slides that we made to show you what's in the kit. There is a branded water bottle, branded drawstring bag, a nature journal, solar power bank to charge your device so you can keep taking cool photos or record sounds of the sounds from the species you observe, and also a Q water drop stress ball and little green trash bin, courtesy of LA Sanitation and Environment. Everything in this kit is pretty much all made with recycled materials, and they all support sustainability. Now, one of the last part is if for any reason you cannot download the app, or because you're using the school device, or creating it, or you can't create an account on iNaturalist, you can also use an anonymous observation form to share and submit your observation photos and information. Unfortunately, with the anonymous observation form, you won't be able to share the sound recording. Okay, and to find that form, you can go to the website. I have a short link here. It's bit.ly /LAPLINet, and you can find that in the comments. Okay. All right. And if you have more questions about the BioBlitz Challenge, be sure to check out the FAQ page on the LA BioBlitz Challenge website, or you can email us at ecdpt@lapl.org. That's Exploration and Creativity Department, and we just shorten it. Lastly, there is a very important one. Okay, this is a very, very important note. We want to see you in action. So please, please share with us stories, photos, or videos of you, your parents, your sisters, brothers, friends making observation and participating in the BioBlitz Challenge. We would love to read about your serendipitous encounter with the indicator species or interesting observations you made, and so on. And if you're sharing them on social media, be sure to use the hashtag LA BioBlitz. We can put that on screen. Yes. And that way we can all see them too. Or you can email your photos or blogs to us at, again, ecdpt@lapl.org. All right, that's a lot of information for you all, I know. So again, like I said, this is recorded. You can always go back and watch it. So now we're going to open up the floor for Q&A. And so everyone, please put your questions in the comments and our moderators will send them to us. And it looks like I now have, okay, my computer is just keep on making this weird sound. Okay, so we have first questions from Zonia. Are you available to come to my 6th, 7th, 8th grade science Zoom classroom? And are the slides going to be available for us? Yes, I will be happy to be there for you. And I can check with Michelle. I don't know if she can join us, but we will make the slide available to for anyone. Again, if you're interested in getting the slide deck, with Michelle's permission, I can email that to you. So you can send us an email to ecdept@lapl.org. All right, and from Eva. I see a lot of birds and other creatures on my walk in my backyard, but I have a hard time taking photos of them with my phone. Do you have any tips? I think that's for Michelle. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when you're trying to find things when you're out on walks, it actually helps if you stop somewhere for a little bit because then you can really see all the individual bees or birds or butterflies in different trees and places. So I encourage you to maybe take a 5-minute break on your walk when you're somewhere pretty and shady and try to see what you can observe then.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the answer. So make a note of that. Now, next question from Patricia. Is the info and challenge available in Spanish and other languages as well? Yes, very good question. So we did make the website in English and Spanish. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to translate into other languages, but if there is an interest for that, we definitely will do that next year when we launch our second annual BioBlitz. Okay, do we have any other questions? If not, I have one here. So Michelle, what is your favorite indicator species and why?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I put a lot of my favorites in the slideshow that I shared with you. And I think if I had to choose, I would probably choose the bobcat. I think bobcats are so cool and it's incredible that we have these big mammals like bobcats and even mountain lions in the city of LA. We're actually pretty unique in having big cats. We're one of 2 mega cities that have big cats in them. So it's so cool. And I think that bobcats are just a fun species. So
cool. Is there another one that you like besides bobcat?
Ooh, I really do. I said this in the presentation. I really do love the acorn woodpecker. I get really excited every time I see them at parks, and they just spark a little bit of joy. They're fun to see with those bright red caps.
Yes. And I usually hear them before I see them. So again, if you use iNaturalist, you can record that sound first and then start looking for them. That's another good, really good feature that iNaturalist have. Can you share with us any fun facts, like tell us any fun facts about some of the indicator species?
So let's see. Feel like I used up a lot of my fun facts already today, Vivian. Well, I mean, if we want to think about I don't know, do you want to help me pick a species and then I can come up with a fun fact? I'm sorry.
I have this crazy, I don't know, crazy crush for Jerusalem cricket. I don't know why. I saw it twice, and every time I look at it, I was so fast. I always get super fascinated by the way it look. So I don't know. Do you have any fun facts about that?
Yeah, Jerusalem crickets are super cool. They are surprisingly big. And when we were working with our expert council to decide which species would be on this final list, the Jerusalem cricket actually got a lot of comments because it's a cricket. So is it really charismatic? Is it something that people will get excited about? And really, the answer is yes. Just like you said, people get excited to see them because they're pretty unusual when you actually get a chance to see them in real life.
Yes, and they have this face that look like an alien, literally. That was one thing that really blew me away when I was just like sitting there and staring at it. And I want all of you guys to know that I used to hate bugs. I can't. I have this crazy bug phobia for I think as long as I can remember, and everything really changed in the last 3 years when I get involved in neighborhood science and doing with iNaturalist. So really, I think to me, it's a life-changing experience. So I have one last question for you. What tips do you have for participants interested in looking for indicator species?
That's another great question. So I think the first thing to do is kind of maybe cherry pick the species that you might be looking for and do a little bit of research on what kind of habitats those species live in. So earlier when I was talking about acorn woodpeckers, I mentioned that they do really well and you can see them often in parks that have native trees like oaks and sycamores. So trying to understand a little bit more about the habitat elements that you can look for is one really good approach. Another way that you can use the information in iNaturalist is actually to go and look and see where the species has already been observed in LA. And so then maybe you can see a spot that's not too far from you at a park or even just in your neighborhood and see if you can go see those species there.
Cool.
One other thing I'll just mention is that our indicator species range from those that you could really see probably in every yard or on a lot of balconies to some that are really only found in natural areas. So there are some like bumblebees that, if you look hard in your backyard, if you, again, maybe just pause from a walk, that you can see when you're out. But there are others that are going to be a bit more elusive that are really only in our open space. And others like the great horned owl that are nocturnal, so really hard to see and take pictures of, but they're another great one that's good to listen for and try to make sound recordings of.
Awesome. So make notes, everybody.
Yeah, and then you learn so much more along the way.
Yes, totally. I've been learning all these species that I found in my backyard, so I thought it's super cool. Okay, so we're almost running out of time. I think we have like 5 minutes left. So we're going to announce that one question that will help you all to win this cool book, Wild L.A. by Leela Higgins. And so I'm going to ask Michelle, do you have a question? Let's have you ask that question. And we're not going to tell everybody the answer because they're supposed to email us the answer and let us know they want that book. And then we're going to do a drawing for people, the the 15 people, there will be 15 people who can get that book.
All right. Can it be a hard question this time, Vivian?
Let's make it intermediate.
All right. Well, how about what does it mean if something is endangered?
That's a good one. That's a very good one. And again, if you don't remember the answer, since we're not going to tell you the answer right now, you can always go back and watch the recording on YouTube, or just come back to Facebook and watch it again. Okay, it will be there. And so again, please email us your answer to ecdept@lapl.org, and make sure you put while LA in the subject line of your email, so that way we know you want a copy of this book. All right, so let's see here. Now is really the time for us to wrap up. We have 4 minutes. I want to thank Michelle again so much for joining us, sharing with us so much important information about biodiversity and the photo of these beautiful species that living among us in the city of LA, and answering all these questions we have for you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Biodiversity conservation, not conversation. Okay, biodiversity conservation is a long-term effort. It takes years and even decades, and a lot of manpower to collect these observation data to really understand the threats and potential solutions to a landscape. That is why scientists like Michelle needs our help. We hope this summer, everyone who's watching this program, whether the recording or live with us right now, will join the LA BioBlitz Challenge starting June 7th and then ends August 7th. All of you will become a neighborhood scientist to help Michelle and other scientists and researchers collect observation data to support cities' effort in protecting the species and their habitats in our communities. And yes, you can become a neighborhood scientist when you participate in the LA BioBlitz Challenge. And I just want to say that we can all be part of the solution, and there's never an effort that's too small. And really, we can all help LA to become a true sustainable city and continue to be this super awesome biodiversity hotspot for generations to come. So last thing, please don't forget to tune in on Facebook and YouTube Live on Thursday, June 15 at 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Saving Time for our next neighborhood science program with guest speaker from SciStarter to talk about her journey as a neighborhood scientist. Thank you all again for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Vivian. This was fun.
Yes.